So this Saturday, July 19th, we have TomDraft coming up, a staple amongst the store. And I wanted to give a small explanation and some highlights as to what people see, because I get asked quite often what TomDraft is, how it works. For draft purposes, you get a series of packs over a course of a couple rounds, and you're going to, one at a time, open those packs, take a card out of it, and pass the rest to your neighbor. TomDraft is no different. You're acquiring cards through the draft process, and you're going to build a deck at the end of it. You do get to keep everything that you draft. The difference being that in TomDraft, the packs are all homemade packs made by the mad scientist himself. In TomDraft, you're going to have 4 rounds, of which you'll receive 3 homemade packs, which will be 2 Tom packs and a foil pack. There will be a 4th round that is all about drafting land. TomDraft encourages multicolored card usage, hence we give you guys an extra land pack to help with those mana bases. Like any other draft experience, removal options come at a premium, so they're always ideal to take when accessible. TomDraft is a very creature-heavy draft experience. It'll also feature a lot of legendary creatures. It features a lot of cycles of cards, meaning like Decree of Pain, Decree of Silence. Those kind of cards will show up in TomDraft often in a pack. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 cycles in a pack. It's also very kindred heavy, so you may see I opened up a pack that has 15 zombies or 15 angels or something like that. I have a foil pack that I made this morning to highlight what you may or may not see within a foil pack. Typically, they consist of 5 rares and or mythics, 5 uncommons, and 5 commons. They can be from any sets that we have access to or any sets of promotional cards that we've had available to us in the past. The pack that I have available has 1 mythic among its rare slot. It has a couple of interesting promotional cards that lay within its uncommon, an F&M Militia Bugler, an F&M Light Up the Stage, and there is a Cowboy Bebop styled Snakeskin Veil. Also, you can see there is a full art Mole Drifter, and there is a pre-released version of Harmonic Prodigy. So those type of things can and will appear within the foil packs as well. Most often this is the formula. Sometimes you will open up a foil pack that is themed along the same lines as what normal Tom packs are. You may open up 15 foil dragons in a pack, for instance. So, also going to highlight for you today one specific pack that was built this morning. And we'll call that pack X Marks the Spot, as it won't take very long to recognize that each one of these cards has X in its casting cost. Now this particular formula here, you'll see most of the cards in this pack are actually rare or mythic rare. In fact, looks like all of them are actually rare or mythic rare. These cards, I've gone ahead and I'm going to break down in draft order how I would draft them in TomDraft, to give you an idea from my perspective of what you can expect and how to draft more accurately in TomDraft. So the first thing I would look at in these packs is I tend to look for removal. I want to figure out how I can take care of my opponent's creatures as efficiently as possible, or something that may just be one of those bombs that wins the game. In TomDraft, you're going to see a lot of bombs go around, so picking and choosing the best one can sometimes be a struggle. So in this pack, pick one, pack one, I'm going to take Aurelius Fury. A lot of times when you're drafting, your draft experience says, don't take multicolored cards, certainly with your first pick or early on, because you don't know exactly what you're going to do. TomDraft is designed to let you draft multicolored cards more efficiently and be able to play them with a lot greater ease than normal. Aurelius Fury is a direct damage spell. It says on it, Aurelius Fury deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or players. Tap each creature dealt damage this way. Players dealt damage this way can't cast non-creature spells this turn. So what's great about this card? Well, one, it's direct damage. You're going to be able to remove creatures or your opponent, if need be, with this spell. It's divisible. It can target multiple creatures and players. It removes blockers from the equation, so it may just outright kill creatures. It does tap them down. It can also be used in a defensive maneuver. You use it during your opponent's pre-combat phase or your beginning of combat and tap down potential attackers. It is instant speed. That is what makes this the best card in the pack. It is instant speed. Second card that I would take, Clan Defiance. Clan Defiance says choose one or more, deals X damage to target creature with flying, X damage to target creature without flying, X damage to target player or planeswalker. This again is a direct damage spell. It has multiple targets, very important. It also acts just as player removal. You draw this thing late game, pump 7-8 mana into it, you can easily kill your opponent. But most importantly, because it can deal with multiple targets, there will be plenty of planeswalkers floating throughout TomDraft, creatures with flying, creatures without flying. If you can do a 3-for-1 on this card, that's excellent value out of a draft. March of Swirling Mist. This is a blue rare out of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So March of Swirling Mist says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each card exiled this way. And up to X target creatures phase out. So again, this is an instant speed card, which makes it a much more versatile card to be used. You can use it defensively or offensively. So defensively, if your opponent targets your creatures, you can phase them out. If they're attacking you with multiple creatures, you can phase those out. If you are going to attack your opponent, you can cause their creatures, their potential blockers, to phase out. So it really is a multi-use card that works well. What makes it high on my list is it's monocolored. It has a very friendly casting cost. In fact, you can actually cast it with X being a higher value if you have low mana available to you. So if you have 3 lands, but you have 2 blue cards in your hand, you can still get away with casting this for a much higher value than what your mana base allows you to cast. Next up, we have Meteor Swarm. Meteor Swarm deals 8 damage divided as you choose among X target creatures and/or planeswalkers. Again, another direct damage removal spell. What makes this valuable in my mind is it is a cheap removal spell for a big target. For 4 mana, you could deal 8 damage to 1 creature or 1 planeswalker. It can hit multiple targets. It does get more expensive as you target more things, and the damage gets distributed a little more, so you get a little less value out of it, but it is a great removal spell, fairly cheap for a large creature. It is also monocolor, which makes it easy to fit into your draft equation. The 3 red in its mana cost can be a little color intensive, but it's still, in this format, mana fixing is pretty available to you. The next 2 are interesting. They are the only creatures that are in this pack. So Amarthus Ghostfire Initiative. It's one of the 2 creatures that are in this pack. Amarthus enters with X +1/+1 counters on it, meaning late game it's going to be more value because it's going to be a lot bigger. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on another colorless creature, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Amarthus. When Amarthus dies, manifest a number of cards on the top of your library equal to the number of counters on it. So Amarthus is going to give you value when it dies. That makes it pretty useful because even if your opponent has a removal spell, they remove Amarthus, it's going to replace itself with another creature that will be a threat as well. It also has potential synergies in the form of if another colorless creature you have is going to get +1/+1 counters, it's going to get more +1/+1 counters. And there are definitely ways to take advantage of that within TomDraft. There are a lot of +1/+1 counter synergies. There are a lot of other colorless creatures that will be floating through there. So it's really easy to find something that this will work well with. And that's what makes it valued over our next card, which is Mikaeus the Lunarch. Again, one of the 2 creatures that are in this pack. Mikaeus is both good early game and late game. It is monocolor. Its casting cost is a very friendly one. It has good synergies as well. I'm sure there will be things within the draft that people will find that will not only work with the +1/+1 counters, but also work with human synergies as a kindred type. Mikaeus the Lunarch enters with X +1/+1 counters on it. You tap to put a counter on Mikaeus, and you can tap to remove a counter from Mikaeus and put a counter on each other creature you control. So he's got pretty good value. The only reason I choose Amarthus slightly over Mikaeus, they're actually about equal, but Amarthus is a colorless card, so it will fit in any deck, and Amarthus also has an effect when it dies, so it replaces itself with another creature. It makes it slightly better. Both are good cards. From this point on, it really kind of became debatable for me, like where to go next. I chose to go with Astral Cornucopia because it is a colorless card, so it's going to fit in any deck. It does have kind of an intensive cost with 3X. Astral Cornucopia enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it, and you tap it and choose a color, add 1 mana of that color for each charge counter on Astral Cornucopia. So you essentially need 3, 6, 9, 12 mana to cast this spell. Again, it is colorless, so it fits in any deck. It is considered mana fixing in ramp, so a turn 3 Astral Cornucopia is going to help you have at least 5 mana on turn 4 if you're hitting your land drops. This is a format that encourages multicolor cards, so being able to fix your mana, especially at a colorless source, pretty awesome. Astral Cornucopia also does get better late game, gives you an option, especially if you're drafting this and you're going to draft more cards that have X casting cost, or you have cards that are large casting cost. This thing's going to help you get there. That's why I chose it next. Wild Call is a sorcery from Fate Reforged. It's 2 green and X, and you manifest the top card of your library, then put X +1/+1 counters on it. So this is not a creature, but it kind of acts like a creature in a sense. It is a way to turn a card that is not necessarily a threat into a threat. a land drop on top of your deck all of a sudden becomes a threat. With creatures being a very high premium in this pack, something that kind of acts like a creature is almost as good. Manifest also allows you that if you do have a creature that gets flipped face down, you can turn it up for its mana cost. So you still have access to creatures that are in your deck through this means. Bright Flame. This is a sorcery that dates all the way back to Ravnica City of Guilds. Bright Flame has Radiance. So Bright Flame deals X damage to target creature and each other creature that shares a color with it. You gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. This is a direct damage card, so why is it sitting so far down on my list? It has a rather intensive cost. You have to have 4 mana before you even tap 4x on top of that. So to do 1 damage to a creature, you have to spend 5 mana. It's a little harsh. It also requires 2 different types of mana, 4 colored mana period, so its mana cost is rather intensive. However, the upsides of it are excellent. This also happens to be card number 9 in our pack, so if we took Aurelia's Fury with pick number 1, this thing's coming around to us at pick number 9, and that's pretty awesome to be able to take both of these cards and have those as pieces of removal. What does make Bright Flame nice is you can remove creatures that have Shroud, Hexproof, or Ward without having to worry about those keywords. If you target something that has a shared color, Bright Flame is going to deal damage to that creature regardless of Shroud, Hexproof, or Ward. It is life gain, so there are cards that you may find throughout TomDraft that will have life gain synergies as well, so that could play into your advantage. Overall, this is a pretty cool card, but for limited, it is hard to cast, which is why it fell this low on the list. This is Biomass Mutation. One, I like to point out that I love this art. I do not know what's going on with it. You have some kind of weird kaiju things. One of them looks like a frog and a lizard of some sort. I don't know, but it's awesome. Biomass Mutation says creatures you control have base power and toughness XX until end of turn. It's a fairly friendly cost, and being 2 Simic mana and X, it is also instant speed. I've really kind of sat on the fence with this card because I didn't know exactly where I wanted to put it. I could have put it higher, I probably wouldn't have put it any lower, but I could have put it higher than this. Being instant speed, it can be used both offensively and defensively. So with the amount of burn that's going around, if you need to make your creatures bigger to survive, if your opponent attacks you with some creatures and you make your creatures bigger, you can end up basically using it as a combat trick to take out some of their creatures. You can swing with a bunch of 1/1s, and as soon as they declare their blockers and think to themselves, oh hey, I'm only going to take a handful of damage, then you can make your creatures bigger and essentially end the game on them. That is one of the key things, that this card can be a game ender. It could also just be a dud. If you only have 1 or 2 creatures, it may not be near as effective as if you go wide and you have 5 or 6. Overall, it's got potential, which is why I actually like this card a lot. I just, compared to some of the other things that are on this list, I didn't know how I wanted to rate it exactly. Mind Shatter. Mind Shatter is a black sorcery. Target player discards X cards at random. This can be a really awesome card. It can also be a complete and utter dud. It requires a certain amount of mana for it to be fairly functionable. If you're only casting it where X is 1, it's not going to be near as useful. You cast it for X is 3, that's pretty devastating. That's great card advantage. You have ways to ramp into this thing early. It's an excellent card. Late game, when maybe your opponent only has 1 card in hand, it's not a great card. You're not getting good value out of this card, which is why it falls so low on my list. You draft a Soul Ring and you hit somebody for this for 3 on turn 3, that's devastating. But late game, this card is just unfortunately not going to be very good. You might be able to find cards that synergize with it, that give you discard synergies, but it's probably unlikely to see something like that, or that you will see it with any kind of regularity. The thing that does make this card awesome is the random part. That's why I said if you hit this thing on turn 3 somehow, your opponent is devastated. They may discard their lands, they may discard their bombs. You don't know what they're losing. So it is got potential, but it also could potentially be just a bad draw late in the game. Damnable Pact. This is kind of a good card. Target player draws X cards and loses X life. So card draw is always important, particularly in a game that drags out. The person who draws more cards is likely going to win a game. It does cost you life when you do draw the cards, so you have to kind of use it somewhat sparingly. What makes this card a little better is that you can finish your opponent off with it. It does say target player draws X cards, target player loses X life. So you could pump 5 or 6 mana into the X and kill your opponent with it. It's not a bad card, just one of those ones you look at and say there are better options within it. It is a monocolor card, so it does fit into limited deck schemes a little easier than some other things. Overall, card draw, potential Lysol offs. Animist's Awakening. Reveal the top X cards of your library. Put all land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Spell Mastery. If there are 2 or more instants and or sorceries in your graveyard, untap those lands. It sounds like a great card. Unfortunately, in Limited, it's not nearly as good. We've already established that TomDraft is a very creature-heavy format, so the Spell Mastery may or may not actually come up, and you've got to have mana to dump mana into it. It's great, it is mana ramp, it's going to thin your deck out of lands. Unfortunately, it's just not the most efficient card in a Limited format. Silver Scrutiny. It's a blue draw spell. You may cast it as though it had flash if X is 3 or less, and draw X cards. It's card draw, and it can be cast with flash. Really not much more to say about it. Card draw is important, like I've already established. It's just not necessarily a great card by comparison. The last card on this list is Sphere of Annihilation. And as I originally looked at this card, I was like, okay, this is a great piece of removal. The more and more I keep looking at this card, the more I actually hate it for Limited. It is a piece of removal. It says whenever Sphere of Annihilation enters the battlefield with X void counters on it, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile Sphere of Annihilation, all creatures and planeswalkers with mana value less than or equal to the number of void counters on it, and all creatures and planeswalker cards in graveyards with mana value less than or equal to the number of void counters on it. Sounds good. Sounds like we're removing stuff. Unfortunately, Sphere of Annihilation is extremely slow. You're telegraphing your board wipe to your opponent. So a few things can happen. If your opponent knows that you're going to exile creatures on your upkeep, they're not going to play a creature to watch it die. They're going to save creatures into their hand. They also have the potential that they may just destroy it. You may have just put 5 or 6 mana into an artifact that you get no value out of. You essentially time walked yourself for somebody else casting a Naturalize and destroying your Sphere of Annihilation. So it has potential, but unless you drafted some way to give this thing flash, cast it on your opponent's instep, it's just not a good card. It really does not have near the potential that a board wipe should have. So that is a small insight into TomDraft. That is a small insight into what a pack looks like, maybe what thought processes should feel like when you're looking into these really varied packs that come around in UC. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. If you want to see more breakdowns of this, maybe of my custom commander decks, just let us know. We'll see what we can do to help give you guys more information, better ideas on what we have going on and our events and custom products that we put out for you guys. Love you all and have a good day.